Good evening. Occasionally in life, you've got a hard act to follow, and that is the topic of tonight's video. Now, it's been 2.5 years since the release of our Infinity video, and that gun was a true grail gun of mine. The video itself was easily the most labor-intensive video that we've ever made, and fortunately, it turned a lot of you onto Infinity. But since the time of that release, the 2011 market has exploded, leaving many of you commenting about the latest, greatest whiz-bang 2011s, which means y'all must have forgot. It's another wonderful day here in America when you grab your trusty old pistol and head out to the local range. But what if you were taking out your gun that was a total freak show? Well, you'd probably need a freak show of a range. Everyone, welcome to the show. I can't describe how good it is to be here for this episode today. Also, for any of the 1911 Syndicate longtime viewers, props to you if you can guess where this was also featured in other videos from the past. You can comment down below with that. But what I'm gonna ask for on today's video is a little bit of patience, because we're gonna cover everything you wanna know, okay? But it's gonna take a little bit of a process to get there, because we've done an Infinity video before, but that was at this point about 2.5 years ago. And a lot has changed since then in terms of how Infinity sort of runs the business. Nothing's changed in terms of the quality of guns. If anything, it's better now, but a lot has changed in terms of the business. So we're gonna talk a little about that because I think it's important to give a little context there. And we're also gonna talk about this absolute freak show of a gun, as I like to call it. Now, disclaimer here, I was I guess we'll loosely call it a collaborator on this. I think in many ways I had very little to do with it, but I just get to be like the fun uncle that comes in and does the video and shows you guys some cool flashy stuff. So of course I'm biased. I had a hand in the thing. So we're going to take you on kind of a natural progression of the story, which means we need to actually start by going back in time. Guys, I'm so excited to announce we've got a new sponsor for the channel. That would be the good folks at Wiley X. They're not actually called Wiley X, that's just what I'm calling them. They're just called Wiley X, but they make great eye pro. We met at SHOT Show, really good conversation. We met in their booth, hung out for half an hour, we were talking, and we just stayed in touch, got my hands on a few different pairs of their glasses. I've been wearing them nonstop, and I'm like, we should really do stuff together. I'm like wearing your stuff, and I'm liking it, like we should do some stuff. So anyway, excited to have Wiley X on board. An American company, they're based right there in Frisco, Texas. That's where all their safety testing is done, like on these bad boys right here. If you're wondering what these are the WX Axe. I've been wearing these non-stop. I shoot in them, I run in them, I wear them to strange, exotic locations. Like these really are my go-to glasses right now. They're comfortable, they got these stainless steel arms right here. These are also comfortable under ear pros. So if you guys are like, hey, are they gonna be good at the range? Yes, they are. So they look good. They got a few different color options on these. These are the black ones. I've got some more like kind of almost brownish ones that are really cool. Probably a little bit more, I don't know. I like the black, I don't know. I go back and forth. I like both of them. But anyway, these are not necessarily shooting glasses, but they are rated for high impact velocity, things like that. And you can get them in prescription. So for those of you out there, if we've got any old or blind viewers, maybe not blind, but maybe like the vision's fading, you can get these bad boys in prescription. You guys can plug in a code if you want. It's just 1911. That'll save you 15% off of the Wiley X store. We will have a link down in the video description, so check it out. Again, WX Axe. Excited to have Wiley X on board. Let's get back to talking about Infinity. Okay, let's talk about Infinity. Give you guys a little bit of a history lesson. Some of you, of course, will know this. Some of this information, a couple little new nuggets I'll drop on you, but some of you will know this from the first video. But if you don't yet know who Infinity is, we should not make the assumption. We should give you a little bit of history here. Infinity is integrally tied to the origins of the 2011. The story goes back to 1989. Classic entrepreneur story. We got some dudes in a garage and they're tinkering around and they come up with the 2011, aka the double stack 1911. So one of those guys is Sandy Strayer. And I guess we'll go ahead and draw this distinction. You will hear Infinity called a couple different names. You might hear Infinity, that's what you will typically see on the side of the guns. You will also hear SVI, which stands for Strayer Voigt, I'm assuming like Incorporated or something like that. So SVI and Infinity are the same thing. You can use those terms interchangeably. I say that to tell you that Sandy Strayer is on the patent for 2011s, aka SVI, Strayer Voigt, Sandy Strayer on the patent for 2011. So when I talk about they go back to the origins of the 2011, I cannot mean that more literally. They're on the patent for the damn thing. Ultimately, that group splits in two, right? The band breaks up and you go, hey, some of the group goes on to form STI and then some of the group goes on to form SVI. STI begins making really production guns and they have now become Staccato. For those of you that don't know that, Staccato was not always called Staccato, they were called STI. And SVI decides to go in a different direction, which is to do full in-house custom guns. Very, very different things that happen once they break up, if you will. Both great companies, fundamentally just very, very different philosophies. Now, Infinity is known for doing wild guns, but they are a bit unique because it is all rooted in performance. If it doesn't work, if it is not functionally sound, they are not interested in doing it, and that's a pretty hard stop. The Strayers, right, the Strayer family is pretty deeply connected to the racing world. That's still some, stuff that they dabble in with their family and everything, and it's pretty cool. And they really apply the racing philosophy, right, from the automotive world to how they make guns. So Infinity doesn't really hire gunsmiths. They really hire engineers who want to chase performance. So it's a totally different mindset in terms of what Infinity is actually looking for. You can really think of it as Formula One racing for guns. That's typically how I describe Infinity to people. I'm like, yeah, look, it looks wild and crazy, and it definitely is that. They're going to use crazy materials and yada, 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 but fundamentally they are chasing performance. So all the decisions they are making are rooted in that. Different guns to do different things, but they all need to work. Now, in going down that custom path decades ago at this point, one of the things that Infinity needed to do was control the entire process, start to finish. A lot of manufacturers like to talk about what they make, and oftentimes, I would even say most of the time, it's pretty misleading. A company will be like, oh yeah, you know, this is our in-house manufactured slide or grip or, you know, bolt carrier group or whatever the thing is, right? Like it just gets thrown around very loosely. Often what the reality of what they're saying is this: we came up with a design. They did do that, right? They did a design, but then because they are not a machine shop, they are not a manufacturer, they go and they find a machine shop that they can contract to produce said product for them, at which point it ships back to the manufacturer and they do the final assembly and they make sure the thing actually runs. Typically, at best, a company is genuinely in-house manufacturing a relatively small portion of their parts, okay? So if you look at the 1911, 2011 world, they might do slides in-house, might. Frames, highly unlikely. Barrels, highly unlikely. Little components, typically not. So it's like those are things that are outsourced to other companies. Infinity, on the other hand, they make all of it in the most literal sense. So if we look at baby bones here, the only thing on that gun not made in Gordon, Texas is the Trigicon. That's it. Literally, the optic is the only thing that did not come out of Gordon, Texas, with the exclusion of the coating, because, you know, DLC and coating, that's kind of a specialty thing, and very, very few manufacturers do that in-house. I do believe that Staccato does, I think Atlas does, but very, very few people actually do that in-house because it's totally own thing there. So when I say they make everything else on that gun, I mean all of it. I mean the recoil springs are made there. And you might be going, the springs? Yeah, the springs. The little optic screws that are on top there that match basically, you know, the coating and everything. Yeah, they made those in Gordon, Texas. Everything is made in Gordon, Texas, down to the damn springs. And guys, when I say no one makes their own springs, I mean no one makes their own springs. That's just not a thing. That's ridiculous. They do it all there. And so the reality, when we start talking about, you know, I have a little line at the beginning, is like, you guys like to comment about the latest, greatest 2011s, and this has got to be the best thing. And it's like, y'all must have forgot, man. Like, y'all get sidetracked too easily, because I can go ahead and break the news for you. No one's catching up to what Infinity can do. Why? I'll give you 3 reasons. One, I think it's an absolute obsessive perfectionist mindset. I can tell you that Infinity is probably not an easy place to work. Like, it is probably very I mean, I can say that with some authority. Like, it's a very demanding environment, and it's like high expectations of you if you work at Infinity. Probably gonna be long hours, and you're gonna have a lot of stuff that gets rejected that's like, nope, go back, fix this, make it better, make it perfect. Like, that's the kind of environment you're in. Not everyone has that, okay? Number 2, performance driven. Again, there's plenty of companies that will do things just because they think it's cool. And I like cool shit too, guys. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm one of the team leaders of let's make cool guns, but like, Infinity is saying, we'll do the cool gun, but we're only gonna make it if it is functionally sound. And then number 3, why I don't think anyone can catch up, is because they make everything in-house. So you might go, yeah, but there's this new company that came out, you know, they're doing this crazy thing. Cool. There's a finite limit to how much you can do when you've got to call up machine shops and ask if they can do certain things. Versus Infinity, let me give you an example here of this. I don't think I told this story in the first video, but Infinity, they don't really do it anymore, but they used to do this thing called the Infinity Experience, where you come out and it was like a 2-day course, if you will, where one day, pretty much one full day, was like an armorer's course, like complete disassembly of your gun, learn how everything works, how to replace things, you know, how to swap these mainspring housing screws that, yeah, they made in Gordon, Texas. And everything. You learn everything. Then the whole other day is shooting. So I got like a mini infinity experience. They were nice enough to do it for me. And it was basically a one-day thing. Second half of the day, I'm out on the range and I'm shooting this gun. I'm shooting my 5-inch gun, right? This is my original infinity that still I probably rank as my favorite gun that I own. And I was shooting it and I was dropping mags. Now that was happening because as a lefty, when I shoot, a lot of times it's just kind of the way my grip lines up. I wind up placing pressure on top of where the mag release would be. And that pressure, especially under recoil, a lot of times mags will just fall out of the bottoms of my guns. And so typically my hack for that is I just put in a really heavy mag release spring, like we kind of like custom tune them, actually like clip off like individual coils and kind of make it specific to how I like it. And some companies will actually do opposite side mag releases. So I'm dropping mags, right? I'm at the infinity experience and Brandon's like, so what's going on here? And I tell him what's going on and he's like, all right, give me your gun. He's like, give me a few minutes, just hang on the range. So he goes up, he takes the little razor, whatever, up to the shop and he comes back like half an hour later and he's like, all right, well, it's not perfect. It's still got to go to coating, but you know, it'll get us through the day. He literally machined a lefty side mag release right there. Like right there, like it wasn't a thing that existed until that moment. Like, I'll see you in half an hour. Goes, maybe they already had the design, maybe they didn't, but regardless, basically said, pause everything, we need a machine apart, and brought it back down. And then he's like, we'll get it coated afterwards and we'll ship it to you with your final gun. Like when I say everything is made in-house, that's the kind of crazy detailed degree that we're talking about here. That brings us to Baby Bones. Okay, so let's talk about how Baby Bones here actually came about, sort of its origin story, if you will. So we did our Infinity video originally based on 3 very simple words that were told to me, right? The backstory, for those of you who don't remember, is I was looking to order a high-end 2011, and I called a manufacturer that I had a relationship with who I already owned stuff from, and I said, hey, you can be unbiased here, I already own stuff from you. Actually, I only made one gun and I own that gun. So I was like, I got nothing else to buy. So you can tell me the truth. I'm thinking about this company, that company, that company. What do you think I should get? And they said, I don't actually think any of that is the right answer with what you're talking about. Infinity is God. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm a sucker for getting emotionally riled up. And that got me riled up. And that's how the video came about. The video comes out and it goes pretty big relative to, our channel. That was one of the more popular videos that we had done. And it certainly probably sold, 1 to 3 guns for Infinity. That's been about 2.5 years. So since that video came out, we've stayed in touch, myself and Infinity. Good relationship there, really like the folks there. And they've always been open about the idea of we could do a project together because the model started to change, more of drops, and we'll get into that sort of at the tail end of the video. But they've always been open about the idea of, yeah, we could come up with a gun design and actually do like a collab, if you want to call it, gun together. But for a period of a couple of years, everything I would pitch them on, they just kind of never really got behind it. It was just kind of like never really went anywhere. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know, maybe we're not going to do something here. And based on a recent call that I had with them, now I get it. So I was pitching them on things that other companies could do. Specifically, I was actually pitching them on like, let's just make a really badass, like how soft shooting of a gun can we make, that's ported and comped, just 9mm gun. And, they're kind of like, anyone can do that. And they told me something on the recent call that I was like, there it is. That's the line. Infinity is God was the line for the first video. The one for this was, they said, you were pitching us on stuff that other companies could do, and we wanted to make you something that no one else could make you. And I was like, there it is. There it is. We wanted to make you something that no one else could make you. And I know that some of you are already starting to be like, well, other people could make this. Yeah, who could all make it in their own shop? Name it. Who can do, well, I won't tell you all the secret ninja stuff here. No one else could do it, okay? So at the start of this year, 2025, we started to begin this conversation about doing a collab gun again. And it didn't take long before they sort of actually laid out the idea for this. And I was like, Like, just make me a part of that one. Like, I don't even care about designing anything. Like, just, I'll give you some basic things that I would be looking for, but like, I just want to be a collaborator on that project. That is the one. Fast forward the clock, 6 months later, Baby Bones is launched. And so there were about 15 of these available. By the time this video is out, you just guys got to keep in mind, like, this is no longer a thing you can go and get, but there were about 15 available. Price tag, $14,200. Now, for some of you that think a pistol could never possibly be worth more than $700, $14,200. Now, the total time for those guns to sell out was 12 seconds. And I mean that as literally as I can. 12 seconds with a lot of people vying for those 15 guns. So for those of you that don't really know, well, I would say flip it. For those of you that know about the gun and what's going on here, you're like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. But for those of you who don't, you probably got to wonder, what on earth makes a $14,200 gun sell out in 12 seconds? Okay, so what is Baby Bones? I know it's such a painful process getting to the bottom of the answers around here. The Bones lineup of guns is not new for Infinity. The Bones lineup is the ones that have the skulls. It's just kind of a thing they do. I think it's cool. Like, you know, it's, I don't know, it's for you or it's not. This is called Baby Bones because it's part of the Bones lineup and it has their baby compensator. Okay, so this is considered their baby comp. That is why the gun is called Baby Bones, because it's a baby compensator and it's part of the Bones lineup. There you go, there's Baby Bones. It is a gun that you can't look at and not have a reaction to it one way or another. You're bound to look at this and at least feel some sort of way about it. You might think it's hideous. Like, truthfully, I could see some purists being like, this is not my thing. And I'd be like, I get it, man. Like, this is either for you or it's not. Fortunately, it's definitely for me. Now, the gun has a 4.5-inch barrel with ports and a comp. Again, this is called the baby compensator, but we can see up here that the gun has 4 ports, in addition to, of course, the comp. Typically on Infinities, you only see 2 ports. So the question is, why does this one have 4? Because this gun is in 45 ACP. So there's your first plot twist, right? This gun, now when they were ordered by the, folks that actually ordered them, they could select at 9 or 45. For those of you that selected 9, you screwed up. Like, you absolutely screwed up. This gun was meant to be in 45. Like, this was meant to be a double stack 45. I'm so insulted that some of you picked 9, but whatever. To really get the full effect of the gun, you gotta get it in 45 because the story gets a little bit better. The true secret sauce of the gun relies in material science. Because again, if we think about Infinity, they are engineers at heart and they wanted to do something pretty spectacular here. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take my 5-inch gun. I took the light off of it. We've got a mag, same size mag as in my other gun with an acro on it. Acro is probably about the exact same weight. So we're gonna throw it on the scale. The scale will tell us, bear with me for just a moment, 3 pounds, 6.7 ounces. So not exactly a lightweight gun, plus 6.7. So the gun basically comes in right at 55 ounces, okay? Now, you also even notice that this gun has, cutouts on the grip. This gun is all steel, of course. So you go look, it's a 55-ounce gun. Now we take Infinity Baby Bones, and all of our guess would be that the gun should probably be about the same thing. Should probably be about 55 ounces, right? Because yeah, it's slightly shorter, but then the comp actually extends past 5 inches and then it doesn't have the cutout on the grip. So the gun should be about 55 ounces. We put it on and we go, the gun is 2 pounds, we'll call it 7 ounces. So that would be, what is that? Between 38 and 39 ounces is what that's currently showing. So that now becomes pretty fascinating there, don't it? So when you make everything in-house, you may as well play in crazy territory. Enter billet titanium. This is not something that you are gonna see very often. On Baby Bones, the frame, the grip, the magwell, mainspring housing, beaver tail, and the compensator are all billet titanium, machined in Gordon, Texas. So you've got a ported comped double stack 45 titanium gun coming in at 38 ounces. And when I heard this combination of things in this sort of conceptual phase of creating this, I thought, what the hell is that gonna shoot like? You know, guys, if you were ever looking for a way to support the 1911 Syndicate, Patreon would be a great way to do that. Believe it or not, I pay myself almost nothing doing the 1911 Syndicate. You would be, basically every dollar that we bring in goes back into making the channel bigger and better. And if we've got a chance to either spend an extra $1,000 to make a video cooler like we are doing today, or Papa here gets an extra, you know, $700 post-tax, chances are the $1,000 is going into the video. So if you guys are ever looking to be generous, we appreciate it. It helps us do cool shit, and that's really what we're in the business of doing around here. We'll have it linked below. Okay, guys, so that's really the million-dollar question for me heading into this whole project was, what do this combination of things shoot like? Because there's really no comp for it, no pun intended. It's just like, yep, that's a unique set of features and materials, and I don't know what it's gonna shoot like. So it's fascinating, and we actually have to kind of, I can't just come here and be like, it's amazing. Like, sure, it's amazing, but it's a little bit more thoughtful than that. So look at it like this. You can't entirely cheat the recoil of a 230 grain round coming from a 38 ounce gun. Like when you hear that for the 1911 shooters, if you heard that stat, you'd be like, that's not gonna be nice at all. 38 ounces and 45 ACP. And that's really where materials come into play. So the benefit of titanium is that it is very tough, but also very lightweight, okay? And it gives it this sort of spring ability. And what that spring ability does is a couple things. One, allow the gun to be able to not crack under the sustained use of 45 ACP. I believe Brandon, when I was talking to him about it, called it major power factor. Don't quote me on that, but I think major power factor might have been said. I might have just made a term up, but I do think that that is correct. For example, if this gun was aluminum for the aluminum or titanium parts, if it was aluminum instead of titanium, chances are after 45 ACP, after an extended period of time, something will eventually give out, right? And you're gonna crack probably a frame if I'm taking a guess here. But the titanium has that spring ability to soak up some of that abuse. But the spring ability also allows it to soak up some of that recoil. So you're left with a really interesting response. So here's the best way I can put it. You can't entirely cheat the recoil that you're expecting to receive on something like a 38 ounce 45 gun. So you go, yeah, there is some recoil, less than you would think, but then we can't forget that we've got ports and a comp. So then those kick in. The gun already shoots naturally softer than it should, like by a lot, but then the ports and the comp kick in and it returns to zero so fast that you're kind of left going, I can shoot this at the same cadence that I could shoot a 9mm gun, which is crazy because it's like 45 naturally is a pretty thumpy round. So it's this really unique one-of-one shooting experience where you go, yeah, ultra lightweight shooting 45, there's some recoil, less, but then the muzzle returns back to zero so fast, it's just crazy. And the ports, I actually opted, I didn't even tell Brandon, but after he described the ports to me, because I was like, can you explain this to me? Because they're clearly, you know, off-centered, and even when you see them, they're at a totally unique angle compared to what you normally. Ports is just a hole in a barrel and shit's flying out, right? So it's like, these are not that. And you see them, and I think he called them reverse ports, and the idea being that instead of driving the muzzle down, it's actually driving it forward, okay? And I could be a little off on this. As he explained it in sort of engineering talk, I was like, yeah, you know, I'm doing my best here, man. I'm just not that bright at the end of the day. But some of the other features we're talking about. One is the grip. The grip is just really, really cool. So that's obviously one of the titanium components, of course, the metal looking portion of it. The rest of it is, you know, basically skateboard tape that's just cut out in a really, really nice pattern. And it's this really nice grippy texture where you're like, that gun ain't going nowhere, right? Like, you guys can litigate in the comments, by the way. I think that the notion of like, he flinched in the last round, because this gun typically doesn't lock back on last round, because just the way that everything's tuned with the mags and everything. I think it's actually not a big deal, because if you look at my grouping on that target, you go, not saying it's the best thing in the world, but I'm also not saying it's terrible. So what does it actually matter if you flinch in the last round if it doesn't translate to your shooting? I don't actually think it matters. I actually wouldn't mind hearing a shooting instructor chime in on that. So anyway, the grip is, it's really cool, man. And aesthetically, it's cool. It's aggressive. I like it. This particular gun is set up for a left-handed shooter. What does that mean? Well, the thumb safety is moved over to my side of the gun. Sometimes people really kind of get confused on what a lefty 1911 is, right? Because, hey, there's full like left-hand eject, you know, basically moving the ejection port over to the left side of the gun. And this obviously is not that. I actually, in many ways, don't care for that, because I've actually gotten used to this manual of arms, and I'm confused when you swap everything over to the other side of the gun. What I do love having, however, is the mag release on this side of the gun. We'll show you guys some B-roll of it, but the way Infinity does the mag release with this little button that's on it, that is both textured and beveled in a way where you're like, look, it's such a small touch. It's such a small touch. In many ways, it's like, it doesn't matter. But it's like, luxurious and like thoughtful, and just like, well, yeah, that was actually a better way to do that. I get a little bit of texture up top, and it's also ramped in this way that it's not a hard edge anywhere. It's just like absolutely money. And then the thumb safety obviously set up for me, so it's going to be thinner on this side of the gun, and then a little thicker on my side of the gun, which is the right-hand side of the gun. So, you know, I could obviously use that as a gas pedal if I wanted to, or for me, I typically actually take my thumb all the way over and actually ride it on top of my support thumb. But the thumb safety is perfect. I mean, just, you can hear it. It's just like, yeah, there's no play in it. There's nothing. I mean, when we talk tight tolerance, like this is amongst the things that we're talking about. The trigger, by Infinity standards, is heavy. They were almost borderline apologetic before they sent it. They were just like, hey, just letting you know, compared to your 9mm 5-inch gun, this one is a little heavier. It's just, you know, with it being 45 and how we tune them, yada, 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 it just leads to a slightly heavier trigger. And I'm like, yeah, is it though? Like, because I'm not really catching that, man. Like, I don't know. Not catching that. It is perfect. And I got to tell you guys, there's triggers that get, people talk about lightweight triggers being the ultimate sort of thing, and it's not. Making a light trigger is not really that difficult. Making a good light trigger is where the magic is, because I felt light triggers where I'm like, dude, it's actually so light, like my reset's not really there. There could be a, you know, like, it's not necessarily good just because it's light. Ask the folks over at Terran Tactical how that works. Like, light don't necessarily mean great. This is perfect. Like, there's even guns that I have where the trigger's so light where I'm like, man, I'm a little, thumb safety's up here, where it's like, I'm a little nervous taking that slack, that pre-travel out of the trigger as I'm coming on target. But this is like so perfect and predictable that you're just left going, yeah, I can just absolutely work this thing all day. So last thing I would mention is the holster. I actually quite battled with this one, because I was like, man, if you're going to do a gun like this, I talked to Brandon, I was like, well, I guess I'm going to do like a race rig, right? It's actually really fucking pissing me off that I got one C-zone hit right there, everyone, because my target was clean for this whole section, minus that one stupid C-zone hit. I'm kicked off I'm not actually on the Infinity team, but if they ever needed a bad shooter, I'd be willing to, but that C-zone got me kicked out. The holster, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get a race rig, but it's pointless for me. I'm like, when am I ever gonna use a race rig outside of right here, right now? It's awesome seeing all your ejection pattern out in the desert here. But so I was like, they actually suggested, they're like, what about leather? Because Kydex just felt like not right. It just felt wrong. And I was like, leather? talk to me on that. I was like, let's do, because, you know, this is a barbecue gun. I'm like, hell yeah, let's do a barbecue rig. So I'm sure we've got a couple images and stuff we can flash up, but basically it's a company called Bitterroot Gun Leather. They did the holster for me. And what is amazing about this, custom holsters, obviously, because only one of these at this current time exists. And what's amazing to me is I was like, hey, we could just send the gun to you. You can mold the holster to it and then, you know, send the gun and the holster back. And he was like, I think I could figure it out. His name's Caleb. And he's like, I think I can figure it out. I was like, okay, you know, big shot. And the holster came in and I'm like, how the hell did you do this? Like, I don't understand how you somehow perfectly fit this holster like flawlessly without the gun. I mean, it's just like, damn. And so for those of you who are like, yeah, that's a little obnoxious, I agree with you. That's exactly what I wanted. The red inside of this right here, Crispy, can you see this little red here? So that is cane, I'm done shooting. That is cane-toed leather or skin, cane-toed skin. So there's a cane toad in the world. Did anyone else not know that? And we steal the skin from the cane toad and we put it into an infinity holster. And I like that. That's my kind of guy. So with that said, I guess we'll go ahead and move on with the show. All right, let's keep talking about the gun and get into some of the specifics now. First of all, fit and finish. I mean, it's like, kind of, do we even really need to address this? The gun, I mean, from a sheer tightness level, there's not a... Well, there's just no movement anywhere in the gun. There's just like absolutely no play anywhere. When you talk about tight tolerances, yep, this has got a silver bullet on it. Everything, I mean, is blended so well, fits so well. The barrel locks up in the gun like unlike any other barrel, maybe minus that. I guess it's been a minute since I've taken this apart, but it's just like when you disassemble the gun and you put it back together, the barrel just like, the way it seats in the frame is just like uniquely just badass. So it is a very, very nicely fit gun. Everything's perfectly blended. I mean, you look at the little touches like, you know, not the grip safety, but the beaver tail, and it's just seamlessly done. Like seamlessly done, guys. All the machining is pretty perfectly executed as well. There's all kinds of little touches on Infinities. Same with this one, but you know, these aren't plates. These are obviously direct. Infinities, like, yeah, we don't do plate system guns here. Like, you pick the optic that you're going to mount to the gun, and we make the gun for that. So they widen the back of the slide. Like, again, this is just part of the slide. Like, we widen it back here. We actually still put serrations on it, so you can actually still use those as rear serrations. And we match the width of the slide with the width of the optic. That's just kind of how Infinity does things. They've got this thumb texture that's on the frame here that's just like, I swear you can damn near use it. It's like very aggressive. Like, I mean, you can straight up like get after it on this and like I mean, it's straight up like you can really actually kind of use it as a thumb ledge, even though there's nothing extending out. It's just, and aesthetically, just very, very pleasing. Just very, very well done. Obviously, there's no iron sights on the gun because that would be ridiculous. What's the point? What are we doing with our lives if we're even entertaining putting iron sights on a gun like this? There's all kinds of little stuff like the hammer. So obviously the hammer on my 5-inch gun is so that you could actually still cock it if you wanted to. Why the hell would you do that? Really can't tell you, but it is a thing that exists on that gun. This one is flush. It is serrated in the rear, but you know, so when the slide is back, look, it's just cool guy stuff. It's just cool guy stuff. And again, this is meant to be a comp gun, competition gun, so there's really no effective need for why you would need something a little bit more practical like this. The serrations, it actually really made me happy to see, because I truthfully gave them like all the freedom to just like, hey, don't do certain things that I know is just not my thing. Otherwise, you're at liberty, you're at Infinity, come up with some cool shit and like, I'm in. But they know that that's my style of serrations I like. I love those big chunky serrations that Infinity does. So they kind of adopted that here on Baby Bones and gave us those chunky serrations up there that I really love. Obviously the skulls are one of those things, you're gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. You're gonna feel one way or another about it. Little touches like the optic screws to match effectively, basically the grip screws and the optic screws to match. all of course made in Gordon, Texas. It's a really, really cool finish. So the gun is basically all the black parts are DLC, and then the silver is chromium nitride, okay? The grip, I wasn't actually sure what was going on in the grip. I knew it was titanium, obviously, but I was like, is that like raw, is that like some sort of like raw titanium finish? Because I have seen suppressors that kind of take on a look like that. And it's not, it actually is finished in that chromium nitride, but then they do a mirror polish on it to kind of bring it to that actual kind of like raw look like that. I think it's really cool because it's a two-tone gun, obviously, but there is a hint of difference in the style of the silver, right? Obviously, we've got matte up on the slide, and then we've got more of the mirror polish that's on the grip. Keep in mind, two different materials. Of course, the slide is steel and the grip is titanium there. But we've got the inlaid grip tape, really cool. We already talked about that at the range. I will show you the case as well. So the case that Infinities come with is effectively the same case they've had for a while, but now they've taken it up a notch. On the interior, they actually print all their own designs now. Again, this is something that, I don't know, maybe a year or so ago, they were like, started doing custom inserts for the cases. So they come up with all the artwork. They make these, like not only artwork, they actually make these, like physically manufacture these inserts in Gordon, Texas. And it's cool. They're always cool. Like they somehow always nail the artwork. I think Brandon actually personally does that. I could be wrong on that, but it's just like, they kind of do it all. And then obviously the gun is fit in there. There's another mag that goes at the bottom of it, but these cases are really pretty damn cool. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Infinity and how it's evolved over time. As I mentioned at the start of the video, there's been a lot of changes over the last 2.5 years since our first video came out. At that time, it was all one-off custom. So Infinity was making 600 one-off guns a year, which is an almost impossible task. Largely an impossible task to keep your sanity, because you can imagine what 600 prima donnas who all ordered a custom gun are like to deal with. And so things have changed now. Now it's really a drop system, okay? So Infinity actually comes up with the designs. They do total about 40 different guns a year, okay? So if you're like, what do I get, 3 different guns a year? No, you actually got about 40. So what they'll do is they'll come up with a design, they'll make one, right? They'll make the prototype. This is the prototype in this case, and they will show it on social media. They'll announce when it's gonna drop, and then it's on you to battle it out and try to get one. They do about 10 to 15 guns per drop, right? There's a little bit of variation there, but we'll just call it 10 to 15 guns. Now, if you plan to get one, you have to be lightning fast at the moment of release. And I cannot overstate that. If you think you're going to, I got a meeting at 9 o'clock, but it'll be done by 9:15, I'll hop on and snag one then. No, you're not. Like less than a minute. As said earlier on this, to be very specific, 12 seconds is how long Baby Bones lasted. And it's not like there was just 12 to 15 people going for it. It was a lot of people going for like 15 guns, okay? So they are really, Infinity is really in a league of their own when it comes to just the pistol market in general. So there is a flip market for Infinity, which is really unfortunate, but because they're impossible to get, kind of like certain sneakers that'll come out, flippers will go and try to get one at the moment of release and then turn around and sell it for 2x. Now, Infinity actually does pay attention to that, and if they catch you doing that, you're basically blacklisted from Infinity. Don't plan on actually directly buying a gun at that point. But what's pretty cool is if you're able to secure a reservation, that's how it works, is you secure a reservation. Okay, you're one of the 15 people we'll call that gets a reservation for Baby Bones. You still do have some custom options that you can select. So all the guns are still built to order. You might have a certain serial number that you're going for, or you might go, I'm a lefty, this guy, right? So I need the safety and the mag release swapped. There's different things that you can select, even caliber on this, right? Because this was 9N45. I was really disappointed to hear that I think like 9 of them went in 9mm, and I think it was 6 that went in 45. Bunch of weaklings getting the 9mm version, but whatever. So the guns are built to order. Delivery time is going to be about 6 months. Okay, so from the moment you get your reservation, you sort of officially place the order, it's going to be about a 6-month turnaround time. But then the day finally comes. You get your Infinity, and there is really nothing quite like it. I had the experience again when I got this, when I was like, oh wow, this feels different. Like that, you know, I don't say this in any sort of like, you know, braggy way. It's not meant that way, but it's just the nature of what my job is. I get in a lot of guns, right? And I get to play with a lot of cool stuff. And there's something different about an Infinity comes in and you're like, oh boy, here we go. Like, you know, welcome to the Thunderdome on this. And it's like a Formula One race car just showed up and you're so excited to go drive it, but you also know that you have entered a higher standard of what is expected of you as an owner. So I'll just show you really what this came with, and I would assume that anyone that, you know, gets one of these or an Infinity, it's the same thing. First of all, of course, the case is very cool. I think we might have already showed you guys that, but you know, and then you got your artwork and all that kind of stuff inside. But you start, you know, beyond the surface level, you start unpacking all this, and you go, okay, there's like bags of maintenance stuff. I mean, there's like so much going on here. You're like, what's this bag of tools? Well, these are all the basic tools. You can get the Infinity toolkit. I got that when I did the Infinity experience, which is like full on. I mean, it's like a toolkit for your gun. I mean, like I said, it's Formula One for race cars. This is the basics to be able to get the slide off, to do, you know, fundamentals. But, you know, here we go. We've got a maintenance calendar here. This is more of the grip material in case any of this falls out, because that's possible, right? At some point, it might just work its way free, you know, over time. So, hey, here's more. Here's instructions how to attach it. Here's the oil that you're supposed to use. No clue what these are. No clue. If Brandon sees this, can you tell me what these are? I've actually been confused every time I see them. I know there's something important. There's a whole nother bag of crap here. It's just like, okay, like this is kind of serious. You've even got your box that your mags come in. This, you know, just probably a little bit of ego here, but it does, you know, warms my heart to see 1911 Syndicate on the box with the mags in it. You open this up and you go, okay, I got my mags. I got my 10-pound government 2 coils, cuts, recoil springs, right? I've got my mainspring housing springs. Of course, my instructions tell me how often that needs to be replaced. You're like, okay, wow, yeah, this is like pretty serious stuff. So you're excited to go shoot your race car, but you're like, okay, I'm gonna have to maintain this car. The fuel that it takes, the ammo is something where it's like there might be ammo considerations. So the first kind of funny story, because it was like a non-issue, it was an issue that turned out to be a non-issue. First day I go to shoot this, I just wanted to shoot a couple mags. I had other stuff I had to shoot, but I was just like, I just want to shoot a couple mags. I'm just dying to know what the recoil is like on something like this. And I brought Winchester white box. Now, that's like having a Bugatti and putting 85 octane in it, except worse than 85 octane. It's like whatever the lowest possible thing you could get. Like that's what I decided to put the Infinity to that day. And I'm jamming up the mags and I can feel something dragging in there. And I would get like 3-4 rounds in and like the follower would get caught and the rounds would dump out. And I'm like, well, this sucks. And so I'd get, you know, force a few rounds in, go shoot it. I'd have malfunction every round, like the gun wouldn't cycle or the ammo or anything. And I'm just like, well, this is a bummer of a way to start off. Text Brandon on the way back and I'm like, hey, I'm sure there's an answer for this. Maybe my mags need to be tuned or something. And he was like, what ammo? I was like, white box. And he was like, rounds too long. And I was like, the hell does that even mean? I mean, I know what it means, but like, what the hell are you talking about? And he's like, well, if the projectile itself is over this millimeter length, like in these mags tight tolerances, like it is going to be a little bit of an issue. So I get the white box home, put it next to some other rounds. Turns out, yes, the Winchester white box is visually just simply longer than the other rounds that I had. And I'm just like, there you go. Load some other rounds that I had into the mags. Guns run fine. Haven't had a malfunction since. And you're just like, again, the fuel matters. The oil matters. All of this stuff matters. In many ways, in the first video, that's why I said, I'm not suggesting that all of you should go out and get an Infinity, because you kind of need to build to that point, because you have to be a responsible caretaker to such a fine tool.
So how do you sum up a gun like this? Well, fortunately, Infinity did that for me. We wanted to make you something that no one else could. Baby Bones is insane. The world in 2025 is a collection of mass-produced products with AI leading the way on how to make things easier, cheaper, and more efficient. And that is what makes something like this special. The desire to make difficult things because you can. Infinity is still the freak show they've always been. And to bring it full circle to how we got here, Infinity is God.